So in this episode we are going to be taking a look at LoopBack. LoopBack is a framework for creating APIs. As you can see right here, there is a comparison between LoopBack, Express, Happy, Sales, Restify and Meteor. And one thing that LoopBack has on any of other of these guys is this ACL. So you get ACL out of the box, which is great because it is a pain point for most of the frameworks. So authorization of your users. So let's say you want to create a post, you want your users to see the posts, but only logged in users to be able to create posts and so on. So you get that out of the box with LoopBack. And the other reason I'm covering this topic in this video, because I plan to do a series in which we are going to take LoopBack as our API, and then we are going to create an application using Vue.js. You will see some of that in this quick episode, in which I will just show you how LoopBack works, and we will try to get some data with Vue and then display it on our page. As you will see, LoopBack is super easy to use and super easy to install, of course, because it's an npm package. So to use it, you would have to have Node installed on your system, and then you just do this. So npm install -g, so we are installing it globally, LoopBack CLI. So we want to install LoopBack CLI. I already have it installed, and I had to do sudo npm install g loopback CLI, but you may or may not have to do that. So you will see how your system is set up. If this doesn't work for you correctly, then just do sudo npm install g loopback CLI. Once that is installed, you have to create a new LoopBack project. And to do that, I'm just going to do something like, let me just see. So I'm just going to do npm, actually not npm, just lb. You just do lb and that's it. And then it's going to ask you the name of your application. Our application is going to be called lb example. And that is also going to be our directory. Then you want to use the current version, so 3 point something, although the version 4 is coming out soon. So you use that. And we want to use API server. So you can use empty server, hello world, so it's going to have hello world example, or you can use nodes, a project containing a basic working example including memory database. Okay, so we are going to choose that. And it says right here, so it's going to try to run npm install. If it can't, then you need to run npm install by hand in the directory. Okay, so our project is created. Now we just cd into it, lb example. And these are our files. Okay, so you have server right here. These are the configuration options for your application, and you have this client directory in which we would put our static files like HTML and so on. I will show you. Right in here, you have also node modules. Of course, you don't want to touch that, and that's about it. So one thing I need to talk about is you can use any kind of database you want with LoopBack, but for now in this example I'm not going to install any connectors for the database. We're just going to use the built-in memory database, but of course for real projects you don't want to use that. You would use something like SQLite, MySQL, MongoDB, or whatever the database that you want to use. So I will show that once we start the series where we will use LoopBack as an API and Vue as our frontend. So these are just files that you have, and what we can do now, we can actually just run the application. So to run it, you just do node dot. And as you will see, the web server is listening at localhost 3000. So if we go right here, refresh this page, you can see that this is started and the uptime is 9.565 seconds. So this is the home page, quote unquote, that you get once you run this server. Also, you can go right here and do Explorer, and then you will be greeted with this UI, so this GUI of some sorts with your API endpoints. And as you can see, we already have a model right here, and that model is called user. So this is what I've been talking about, the authentication. You get this out of the box, so users. And as you can see, you got a lot of endpoints for your users. So you have endpoints for listing your users, for adding new users, for updating users. You have endpoints for access tokens. You even have endpoints for login, logout, and so on. So this is one of the most great things about LoopBack, is that you get this out of the box. And in the next episodes, you will see how easy it is to create authentication for your models. So models are just data types that you would use in your application. And let's create a model of our own. So to do that, it's also very simple. So first of all, you stop the server and you just do lb model. And as you can see, pretty much everything in LoopBack has this kind of CLI in which you can create models, add connectors, and so on. Set up your data sources, which I'm not going to show in this video, but it's pretty easy. And if you want to do it by yourself, just check the documentation. Okay, so enter the model name. So let's say we want to have a model called post. So we do post. This is some standard actually for naming your models. So the model should be written with first capital letter and B singular. So the DB is going to be memory. As you can see, we don't have any other data sources, but you can install MySQL, SQLite, and so on. So we are going to use that. We are going to choose persisted model. So that model is going to be persisted in our database or saved. Do we want to expose it with post via the REST API? Of course. And custom plural form. So since we called it post, the loopback already knows that the plural form of post is posts. But if you have some weird word that has something else as a plural, you can define it right here. And we are going to use common for our models. Not server, but common. And that's it. Now you define the property names. So what is our post going to have as its property? So first of all, it's going to have a title, right? So, and that title is going to be a string, and it's going to be required. And the default value for it is not going to be anything. Okay, so let's define our second property name, which is going to be content. And it's also going to be a string. It's not going to be required, and we will not have default value for it. And when you want to exit out of this, when you're done, you just press enter once more, and that's it. Now you're out. And let's see what we get right here. So as you can see, we get this common library. So that was the last question that we were asked when creating our model. So we have this common directory, and in that common directory we have models. And as you can see, we have this post.js model, which looks like this, right? So nothing in it for now. And you have this post.json. So this is going to be your configuration file for that model. And as you can see right here, you have these properties, title and content. So the title is type of string and is required. The content is just string. Okay, so this is the way you would create your basic model. And now if we go right here and do node dot, then we will start our server again. And if we go right here and refresh this page, so we are still on user, but as you can see now we have also post, right? So the post automatically gets generated whole bunch of these endpoints. So we have an endpoint for getting the posts, for adding new posts, for updating our posts, for changing stream, find one, replace or create, and so on. As you can see, you get a lot of these endpoints. And now we can go to get. And for now, we don't have anything right here. If we try it out, we will just get an empty response. The response code is 200, which is okay, but we don't have any data as of yet. So how do we get our data? Actually, how do we create it? Well, we would just go to the post route. And as you can see, you can define your data right here. Of course, this is just the thing that you get with LoopBack. When creating a real world application, you would move all of this to either Vue, React, Angular, even maybe to some server-based framework like Laravel or maybe even October. So you will have this data. And you can just click right here, so it will populate this, and you can say post, and the content is just going to be a string of letters. Okay, and then you can just try it out. If you try it out, so this is the way you would create your post. You would use that endpoint. This is the response body. The response code is 200, which is great for us. And that's it. Now we have this data right here. And now if we go to posts, get, and try it out again, now we got our first post. So let's just create another one. Right here, we click here, and then we do my second post. Second post, try it out. And our second post is created. If we go right here and try that out again, now as you can see, we have two posts. Of course, we can even go to API posts, and now you get the same data. So this is the way you would create your models and then populate them quickly. Or as I said, if you're building a real application, you would leave this to React or Vue or whichever other front-end framework you want to use. So now let me show you how you can display that data on the actual page, so actual web page. So if we go right here, so add a static web page.html, you would need to follow these instructions so that you would route your index.html to be the first page that opens up when you run your server. So to do that, you need to kill off this root.js file, because if you don't, then your front page will look just like this. And we don't want that. So I'm just going to go to PHP Storm, go to boot, and we have root.js file. I'm just going to open it up and rename it. So we are going to rename that file into something that is not JS. So I'm just going to call it root. And that's it. Okay, that's the first thing we need to do. Now the second thing you would need to do is go right here, and it says you need to define files in your middleware.json file. And you just need to put this code in it. So I'm just going to copy this out, go to middleware.json, find files, they're right here, and then paste this in. Okay, save this. And of course, the last thing you need to do is you need to go to client. If you read this README file, you would see this is the place for your application's front-end files. Okay, so we need to create index.html right here. And I'm going to call it index.html. So now we have this index.html file. I'm just going to call it our LoopBack app, save this, and now our front page is ready to go. But first thing I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to add some title. Our first step, just to see if it works. Okay, save this. exit out of our server and run the server again. Okay, now if we go to localhost 3000, refresh the page, it gets our first step. Great. So now we have the first step set up. Next thing I want to do is I want to recreate that data again, because if we go to API posts right now, it's empty because we are not using a database, we are just using memory as our data storage. So every time you restart your server, you're going to lose that data. This is this is why you need to set up the database with your loopback, because you're just going to be losing data every time you start that server. Okay, so let's just go to Explorer and go to our post and just quickly create 2 posts. So no, we are going to use the post route. So this is going to be our title, this is going to be our content. Try it out, and we do one more. Try it out. Okay, now we should be able to get 2 posts. API posts, they're here. Okay. Now we just go to our index.html file, and since we are feeling adventurous, I'm not going to install a Vue via npm or something like that. I'm just actually going to call it through CDN. So we are calling in Vue 2.5.16 and Axios. We are going to be using Axios to get the data from loopback. And now we are just going to create our application right here. So just a simple thing, script, and then you would do let app equals new view, not view, but view. And we have to define an element that Vue is going to look for. So that element is going to be app. And we need to create it right here. Okay, so Vue is going to be watching that element. And now what we want to do is we want to define our data. And it's going to be an object in which we are going to be receiving some posts that are going to get to be an array. And what we want to do now is we want to say to Vue, once you're mounted or once you started, then get the posts from the posts API and set them to be these posts right here. So to do that, you would just do mounted, and then you would do axios.get. And this is our API endpoint, right? API posts. So I'm just going to copy that, paste it right here. Then we want to get a response. And then we are going to set that response to be these posts right here. So this dot posts equals to response.data. Okay, and then let's just console log out this dot posts just to see if we are getting them. Okay, save this. If I refresh this page, as you can see, in our console, we get an array with 2 posts. So content ID and title. You get the ID for free when you create something in loopback, because of course you will always need an ID. Okay, and now let's just display this on our page. And to do that, we are just going to create a UL tag with an li tag in it, and we are going to say v4 equal to post in posts. Okay, and now in here I'm just going to do h2 post.title and in p tag we are going to have post.content. And that should actually be it, I think. Let's refresh this page, and as you can see, we get our first post and our second post. So this is the way you would work with Loopback. Of course, if you want to create a real application, you wouldn't just put an HTML file in here. You would maybe use Vue CLI, you would make some components, and you would use Loopback as your API and your database, or as your backend. Okay, so this has been it for this episode. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the content I put out, maybe subscribe to my channel. If you want to ask me questions, you can do that via social media. And if you want to send some money my way, you can use the Patreon page for that. And to my existing patrons, thank you very much. There are not a lot of you, but I am preparing some surprises for you, so just be aware of that. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.